Adi Shankara, also known as Adi Shankaracharya, was born in the month of Vaishakha in 788 CE on the fifth day after Amavasya during Shukla Paksh. In the little town of Kaldi in Kerala, he was born to his father Sivaguru and mother Aryamba. His parents offered their prayers to Lord Shiva, requesting the deity to bless them with a child. Their prayers were soon answered in the form of a baby boy. A few theories suggest that Aryamba had a dream in which Lord Shiva himself promised her that he would be taking birth as her child. Hence, many consider Shankara as a reincarnation of Shiva. Shankara was educated by his mother as he lost his father when he was just 7. Aryamba played a key role in teaching Vedas and Upanishads to a young Shankara. Date of birth. Shankaracharya's date of birth is a controversial issue. It is, however, observed on the fifth day of Vaishak, the Hindu month. The date for this year's celebration is 6th May. There is a lot of confusion regarding the birth date of Shankara as different sources have proposed several different dates. The most accepted birth date places him as a scholar from the first half of the 8th century CE. Due to his later fame, over 300 texts are attributed to his name, including commentaries, introductory topical expositions, Prakara Grantha, and poetry, Stotra. However, most of these are likely to be by admirers or pretenders or scholars with an eponymous name. Authentic are the Brahmasutra Bhasya, his commentaries on 10 Mukhya, principal, Upanishads, his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, and the Updesh Sahasri. The authenticity of Shankara being the author of Vivekakmai has been questioned. One of Shankaracharya's most important works is his efforts to synthesize the 6 subsects, known as Shanmata. Shanmata, which literally translates to 6 religions, is the worship of 6 supreme deities. Shankaracharya explained the existence of one supreme being, Brahman, and that the 6 supreme deities are part of one divine power. He also founded Dashnami Sampradaya, which talks about leading a monastic life. While Shankaracharya was a firm believer in ancient Hinduism, he condemned the Mimamsa school of Hinduism, which was purely based on ritual practices. Throughout the course of his journey, Shankaracharya discussed his ideas with various other philosophers and fine-tuned his own teachings from time to time. Shankaracharya founded 4 monasteries, mathas, that continue to spread his teachings. Life. Shankara's hagiography described him as someone who was attracted to the life of sannyasa, hermit, from early childhood. His mother disapproved. A story, found in all hagiographies, describes Shankara at age 8 going to a river with his mother, Shivtarka, to bathe, and where he is caught by a crocodile. Shankara called out to his mother to give him permission to become a sannyasin or else the crocodile will kill him. The mother agrees, Shankara is freed and leaves his home for education. He reaches a Savate sanctuary along a river in a north-central state of India and becomes the disciple of a teacher named Govinda Bhagwatpada. Adi Shankaracharya was attracted towards sannyasa right from his childhood. One day, while bathing in the Purna river, Shankaracharya was attacked by a crocodile. Seeing his mother's incapability to rescue him, he asked her to give him the permission to renounce the world. Left with no other option, she agreed to it. Shankaracharya recited the mantras of renunciation, and immediately, the crocodile left him. Thus started the life of Shankara as an ascetic. He left Kerala and moved towards North India in search of a guru. Meeting Govinda Bhagwatpada and enlightenment. On the banks of Narmada river, Shankara met Govinda Bhagwatpada. Impressed by his knowledge of the Vedas and Vedanta, he took Shankaracharya under his tutelage. Under the guidance of his guru, Shankara mastered Hatha, Rasa and Jnana Yoga. Thereafter he received initiation in the knowledge of Brahma. Thus was born Adi Shankaracharya, whose aim in life was to spread the Vedic teachings of the Brahma Sutras throughout the world. The stories in various hagiographies diverge in details about the first meeting between Shankara and his guru, where they met, as well as what happened later. Several texts suggest Shankara's schooling with Govindabda happened along the river Narmada in Omkareshwar. A few place it along river Ganges in Kashi, Varanasi, as well as Badrinath in the Himalayas. The hagiographies vary in their description of where he went, who he met and debated, and many other details of his life. Most mention Shankara studying the Vedas, Upanishads, and Brahmasutra with Govindabda, and Shankara authoring several key works in his youth, while he was studying with his teacher. It is with his teacher Govinda that Shankara studied Gaudapadiya Karika, as Govinda was himself taught by Gaudpada. Most also mention a meeting with scholars of the Mimamsa school of Hinduism, namely Kumarila and Prabhakara, as well as Mandana and various Buddhists, in Shastrartha, an Indian tradition of public philosophical debates attended by large number of people, sometimes with royalty. Thereafter, the hagiographies about Shankara vary significantly. Different and widely inconsistent accounts of his life include diverse journeys, pilgrimages, public debates, installation of yantras and lingas, as well as the founding of monastic centers in North, East, West and South India. Digvijaya and disciples. While the details and chronology vary, most hagiographies present Shankara as traveling widely within India, Gujarat to Bengal, and participating in public philosophical debates with different orthodox schools of Hindu philosophy, as well as heterodox traditions such as Buddhists, Jains, Arhatas, Sauktas, and Charvakas. The hagiographies credit him with starting several Matha monasteries, but this is uncertain. 10 monastic orders in different parts of India are generally attributed to Shankara's travel-inspired sannyasin schools, each with Advait notions, of which 4 have continued in his tradition: Bharati, Sringeri, Saraswati, Kachi, Tirtha and Asrabin, Dwarka. Other monasteries that record Shankara's visit include Giri, Puri, Vana, Aranya, Parvata and Sagra, all names traceable to ashrama system in Hinduism and Vedic literature. Shankara had a number of disciple scholars during his travels, including Padmabdekarya, also called Sanandana, associated with the text Atmabodha, Suraswaracharya, Totkacharya, Hestamalkacharya, Chitsukha, Prividhara, Chidvilsaiti, Bodhendra, Brahmendra, Sadananda and others, who authored their own literature on Shankara and Advait Vedanta. Famous story of Adi Shankara. Adi Shankara got into an argument with a man and won. Then that man's wife maneuvered herself into the argument. Adi Shankara is a certain level of logic. You should not argue with a man like that. But she negotiated herself into the argument, saying, "You defeated my husband, but he is not whole. We are 2 halves of the same thing. So you must also argue with me. How can you beat this logic?" So, arguments started with the woman. Then she saw she was losing, and so she started asking him questions about human sexuality. Shankara said whatever he said. Then she went into more details and asked, "What do you know by experience?" Adi Shankara was a brahmachari, a celibate. He knew that this was a trick to defeat him, so he said, "I need a month's break. We will start from where we left off after a month." Then he went inside a cave and told his disciples, "No matter what happens, Do not allow anybody into this cave because I'm going to leave my body and look for another possibility for some time. The life energies, or prana, manifest in 5 dimensions: prana vayu, samana, apna, urana, and vyana. These 5 manifestations of prana have distinct functions. Prana vayu is in charge of respiratory action, thought process, and the sensation of touch. How do you check whether someone is alive or dead? If his breath has stopped, you say he is dead. The breath has stopped because the prana vayu has begun to exit. It will take up to 1.5 hours for the prana vayu to leave completely. This is why it was traditionally set up that after the breath stops, you must wait for a minimum of 1.5 hours before you cremate someone, because he is still alive in many other ways. We wait for 1.5 hours so that his thought process, his respiratory action, and his sensations are gone, so that he doesn't feel the burn. Now the remaining part of the prana will still be there. The vyana, the last dimension of the prana, could last up to 12 to 14 days. The preservation and integrity of the body is largely due to the function of the vyana prana in the system. When Adi Shankara left his body, he left his vyana in the system because his body should be maintained. It so happened, a king was bitten by a cobra and had died. When cobra venom enters your system, your blood begins to coagulate and breath becomes hard, because when circulation becomes difficult, it becomes hard to breathe. Your breath will stop well before your prana vayu has exited. In many ways, this is an ideal condition for one who wants to enter that body. Normally, it would give you only a window of 1.5 hours time. But when a person has got cobra's venom in the system, it will give you up to 4.5 hours time. So Adi Shankara got this opportunity, and he very easily entered the king's body. And he went through the process so he could answer those questions experientially. There were some wise people among the king's circle, who, when they saw a man they had declared dead suddenly sit up full of energy, could recognize by his behavior that it was not the same person but someone else in the same body. They sent soldiers all over the city, telling them wherever they saw a body lying around, to burn it immediately, so that if that body belongs to the person who has come here into the king's body, then he will not be able to leave and go back. Because now the king has come alive, a different guy, but he looks the same, so what? But they did not succeed and Adi Shankara went back. Death. Adi Shankara is believed to have died aged 32 at Kedarnath in the northern Indian state of Uttarakhand, a Hindu pilgrimage site in the Himalayas. Texts say that he was last seen by his disciples behind the Kedarnath temple, walking in the Himalayas until he was not traced. Some texts locate his death in alternate locations such as Kachipuram, Tamil Nadu, and somewhere in the state of Kerala. A statue of Adi Shankara has been built behind Kedarnath temple to commemorate his life and work as part of the temple's redevelopment after the 2013 deluge in the area. The 12-foot statue inaugurated by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on 5 November 2019 is made of chlorite schist and weighs 35 tons. Adi Shankaracharya established 4 maths: Badrikashram Jyotirpeeth in the north, Dwarka's Shraddha Peeth in the west, Govardhan Peetha in Puri in the east, and Sringeri Sharada Peetham in Chikmagalur district, Karnataka.